بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Everybody, David Wood is saying, from his definition, the Israeli government is a terrorist organization. Now, you're going to try to backtrack from that because you don't want those dollars that are coming in from the Zionists, right?
We have an idea of what terrorism is.
What's the idea? Who's a terrorist?
If he says
wait. You have an idea what a terrorist is. Tomorrow a right-wing extremist who calls for killing Muslims a terrorist?
Yeah.
You think they should be all arrested if they call for killing Muslims?
Yes.
Put in jail?
Yes.
All right. Hey. Be careful, you may get yourself arrested, bro. Take it easy. All right. I know. I'm just saying, okay? So now, are there people that would disagree with you that that's terrorism?
I mean, terrorism usually has a definition.
Are there people?
It's either committing violence
or
threatening violence for the purpose of spreading or enforcing an ideology on
Excellent.
others.
So, if somebody says that Black Lives Matters is a terrorist organization, like some of your counterparts on, I don't know which side of the aisle you're on, when the Republicans have said, right? So would you consider that terrorism now? See, you're not clear.
No, I'm saying, I wouldn't say the organization. I would say if an individual goes and kills someone or something like that,
or threatens
ideology, that's a terrorist.
Or threatens it.
That's true of Republicans, that's true of Democrats.
So if the Proud Boys call for killing of, let's say, Hillary Clinton, that's a terrorist that can be arrested for lock her up or something like that, right?
If you say lock her up or something like that, if you say
that's terrorism.
Depends. If you say she's committed a crime and she should be locked up,
so,
if you say we need to kill her because we disagree with her political views or something like that, I would consider that terrorism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are there people that would disagree with you?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So then it's not explicitly clear. Then there have to be laws explaining what is meant by terrorism. Because your David Wood's interpretation may not be David Duke's. That may not be, what's that, Farrakhan, and what's the other guy, Jackson, what's the dude, man? Jackson, the guy who, Al Sharpton, what's the other guy? Jesse Jackson, right?
Okay.
Their interpretation of terrorism and David Duke's and yours are going to be different.
Okay.
So when we as a country say, hey, we need to condemn terrorism and terrorists need to be arrested, who is and who isn't a terrorist is not going to be clear from that.
Okay.
So when Allah says that fasad fil ard, then this is explicit, it's clear. But when you want to,
clear enough,
let me explain it to you, bro. You're speaking just like those so-called Quranic. Just because they're ignorant doesn't mean that the ayah is not clear. Okay? So when Allah says aqimus salah, establish the prayer, that's an explicit verse, no doubt to its clarity. But how will you implement that? Will you pray 4 ayat, 4 rak'at, 2 rak'at, Fatiha, no Fatiha? This will all come in the hadith. That's why Allah says atiullah wa rasulahu. Do you understand or no? When Allah is explicit in the Quran, it's clear. It doesn't mean that every single thing that has to do with science or rulings or prayer or what invalidates wudu is all going to be an explicit ayah. When Allah says atiullah wa rasuluhu, right? Obey Allah and His Messenger. So that ayah then makes explicit that to implement this verse, you're going to look at the sunnah. Okay? Just because you are ignorant of what the hadith are on this issue and how to implement it doesn't mean the verse is unclear. But the Quran should be studied. So if you, David Wood, want to understand the Quran, I'm offering you, sit down with me. I will bring you the original books of tafsir, not just what you Google online, which is a summarized English translation. Actually, Ibn Kathir, Tabari, Qurtubi, and we'll look at what actual evidences from hadith are about this particular verse, in which situation is it applicable, and then you will be clear, your mind will be set free with knowledge instead of ignorance.
I'm not sure because
come on, man. You know in your heart you're like, I should study this before I talk about it. I should look into this before I
literally came here because
I appreciate
it.
Yeah.
The verse
that's why.
with what I said.
Because you don't know. You don't know.
It says oppose and contradict and so on.
First thing, you didn't read the whole commentary. Secondly, when I'm saying the hadith, the actual narrations about this verse, if you look at those, then you will know when it's applicable and when it's not. What is meant by fasad fil ard, just like when we say terrorism, what is meant by terrorism, then there are laws and there are clarifications, Patriot Acts and all this stuff that's then said, yes, the President Bush said we have a war on terrorism. Well, what's terrorism? Is the Israeli government a terrorist organization? If the definition you give earlier, that you use violence for a political goal, then David Wood is saying the Israeli government is a terrorist organization because they use violence for a political goal. Everybody, David Wood is saying, from his definition, the Israeli government is a terrorist organization. Now, you're going to try to backtrack from that because you don't want those dollars that are coming in from the Zionists, right?
I'm not aware of any Zionist dollars.
Oh,
Right.
come on. You may not be aware of it.
Christians,
All right.
Christians love me.
Christians love you?
Just to be clear, the normal definition of terrorism is not government.
So government-sponsored terrorism is not considered
I
terrorism?
believe I would have to consider this.
Look at the explicit clearness of terrorism now. So Hamas is a government. They're not terrorists? What about the Saudi government? When they do stuff, people call them terrorists.
Keep in mind, I'm saying you have to judge it act by act.
But you see exactly.
Yes.
Earlier you said the ayah is not explicit because when I said no. When I said you have to judge it act by act, you were like, well, that's not clear. But now when you are getting into the same situation, you're telling me you have to judge it act by act.